Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everyone. That means there's a Boxing Day test match around the corner. It's in Melbourne and it's Australia versus India. Now, we've got some talking points on this vlog. We've got India and Australia's batting lineups, their woes, how can we improve both batting lineups. We're also going to discuss bowling lineups as well and the wicket conditions over there at the MCG. Let's get into it with the questions that you have asked. Right, the first question. I've got two questions here together because it involves Rohit with a little bit more. So Azzy for Joys and Movie Credits have asked similar questions. Firstly, Azu, should Rohit open the batting out the MCG? With Boovie asking, drop Gill, let Rohit open and KL out 3 and bring Washi in to strengthen the batting lineup, but also add a spinning option. So don't drop Gill. That's one thing. I think keep Gill out 3. You need that number 3 who can put pressure and play with aggression against that potent Australian bowling lineup. The only one thing that I'd tell Gill is Australia are going to look to bowl a little wide to you with that new ball. When they do, try and leave it. Let it go, make them bowl to you, because when they're attacking the stumps, you're in more control of your bat swing, your eye line, or your head's behind the ball as well, and that means you can play those aggressive strokes. But when it's away and it seems a little bit, you're playing away from your body and you're feeding no slip. So that's what I'll be telling Gill. You've got to keep him out 3. KL Rahul has still got to open the batting. He's got to try and bat for long periods of time and try and get Australia without causing much damage to that 20th over, and that's just by leaving the ball. And you've got Jaswell at the other end, a left-hander who can put pressure on that Australian bowling lineup with his aggressive style of play. I would not open the batting with Rohit Sharma. But those batsmen that I have spoken about with Virat Kohli, they've got to make sure that they get to that 20th to 30th over relatively unscathed, because after that the ball is softer and you can really take the game on. So that should be India's game plan. Would I bring Washi in to the mix? I might bring Washi in and say to Rohit Sharma, look mate, we have to get you out of the team for the rest of this particular series. You don't have a great record in Australia or South Africa. Both conditions are very similar. So he hasn't got 100 in either of those countries. And if you look out his last 9 innings, he has been out LBW once and bowled 5 times. Now that's not good for an opener. His technique is not as solid as it should be. So for me, for the best interest of India, I think he should remove himself from the team and allow someone like Washi to come in and fill that void and give them another bowling option down the bottom. You can't lose with that. So that's my thoughts on that. Good question, both of you. Now, Asthet, do you think Pat can be the Potts, that's player of the tournament series, of Border Gavaskar Trophy if he performs out the MCG and SCG? Well, obviously he could be the player of the tournament if he does well at the MCG and SCG, but I think the performances from Travis Head, Jaswell, but Boomer as well have probably been more important. I think Boomer has been the player of the tournament so far. He has carried the Indian bowling attack. He has kept them in the series. So the other thing for Pat Cummins, he does have to lift because Australia have lost Hazlewood. Over the last year and a half, Hazlewood has been the best Australian bowler by far. He's got an average in the teens, so around about 17, high strike rate. The other bowlers have got averages in the mid-20s. So for me, one of the bowlers has to step up, and that is Pat Cummins. Mitchell Starc does the damage with the new ball, but he's also got to step up in those middle overs as well. So there you go, answer that question. Now, Saley, Cash's question is, it's 1-1 now. So which team is under greater pressure heading into the Melbourne Test match? For me, I think it is the home team. They didn't win in Perth. Now, the Perth conditions were suited to the Australian bowling attack as well as batsmen, and they didn't take advantage there. They took advantage in Adelaide They turned it around with a pink ball test match, and then when they went to Brisbane, they were on top of India there. But because it was rain affected match, it became a draw. Now that plays into India's favour, because Australia would have been expecting to be at least 2-1 after those first 3 test matches, and now they're 1-1 with conditions out the MCG probably starting to bring the Indian contingent back into the fray, so the competition is a little easier here. That's why I think at the present moment India are slightly in favour of Australia, because Australia would have been worn out with that particular scenario up there in Queensland. But India are putting pressure on themselves. They're attacking the Australian media. You had Kohli out the airport having a little incident with an Australian journalist, and then Jadeja doing his press conference in Hindi and not allowing any Australian journalists to understand what's being said, or having an Australian journalist asking any questions. Now, you want to have that byplay, you want to let those outside influence affect you. Well, gradually that's going to creep into the team environment as well, because you start to talk about the negative rather than the positive, and focus on what you should be doing out the present to make sure that you're ready for that next test match, to make sure you know exactly what to do in that next test match. So for me, India is starting to take the focus away from what they have to do and focusing on outside matters that they can't control, which could be a bit of a detriment, but they should be going in this test match as favourites. Now, Mutu and Wafi, they are, should Australia be giving more chances to Nathan Mcweeny? Was it fair on the young lad? It was not fair on the young lad. He was starting to find his feet out this test level. Now, he's had hard conditions to contend with, in all 3 venues. The new ball was seaming around. No one in the top order was comfortable. So for me, it's been hard on Mcweeny. They are bringing in Constas, the new batter, but for me, if they're going to bring in another player, they probably should have looked at dropping either Labuschagne out 3 and giving Mcweeny a go out 3 and having Constas open the batting with Usman Khawaja, or Khawaja, who's 38, Labuschagne 30, still got longevity in the lineup. Maybe drop the 38-year-old to give another youngster a go out this stage. I think it's been very hard on Mcweeny, and he showed what temperament he's got. It won't be too long before he's back in this team. He got dropped, and the first game out, a couple of days later, he's won the game for the Brisbane Heat in a T20 Big Bash game over in Brisbane. So well done to Mcweeny there. Watch out, he'll be back in there. Rahman, 333. Sir, do you really want Lyon to play in Melbourne? As Head can bowl spin, can't we go with 4 fast bowlers? I would play 4 fast bowlers with Head leading the spin, Inglis in place of Marsh. Do you agree? I don't think Inglis should come in place of Marsh. You need Marsh in that lower order to add a little bit more depth with the ball. So if Australia get into that 100 over mark with the ball and India are only 4 or 5 down, you need that extra bowler. So Marsh has to stay there, and he can take the game away out the back end with Travis Head as well. If you're going to bring Inglis in, I would bring him in for Labuschagne at this stage and bat him out 3. You need Nathan Lyon to bowl as well. You can't bring in a 4-seamer, the MCG. Nathan Lyon, the wicket screen at seaming, he's still potent in the way that he goes about it. He looks for economy, and he controls the game from one end and allows the Australian captain to bowl the quicks out the other end in short, sharp spells. So you need that bowler that can hold up an end from one end, and when it starts turning, really take the game away. Nathan Lyon has to be the frontline spinner. You can't ask Travis Head to do it. He hasn't bowled long spells for a long period of time, for the last 5 years at least. When he was a lot younger, maybe he could do it, but not when you got the quality of Nathan Lyon. I like your thought back there, Rahman. I really like your thought. ABD Razak. India seems to be over-reliant on Jasprit Bumrah. Is lack of variety the main concern, or lack of quality? I think variety and quality, I don't think you can really take away from the bowling attack that India have got. They have got that quality. But I think they have been found out in the Australian conditions out at the present moment, especially Rana and Siraj. When they've been asked to bowl a bit fuller, they've been putting the ball there. They haven't been hitting the deck hard. When they bowl on that good length, they really hit the deck hard. But when it's fuller, they don't. If you look at Hazlewood, Cummins and Boomerang, as well as Scott Boland, when they search for that fuller length, they're still heading the deck hard. And that's why they're getting movement with the seam off the pitch. And as Boomerang does that as well. Yeah, I did mention Boomerang. Mitchell Starc gets away with it by floating it up there because he's got ball speed and he's getting the ball to swing as well. Siraj and Rana don't have that ball speed like Starc does. And that's where they get found out on these Australian wickets. I think Akashdeep, he's one with that tall approach, can hit the deck harder on that fuller length, and I think he might be a handful out the MCG. So for me, whoever the third quick is, because I think they're going to go with Boomerang and Siraj out the MCG, whoever the third quick is, if they are going to go fuller and the ball's seaming on that fuller length, don't look to swing the ball as much. Look to hit the deck a lot harder on that fuller length, and hopefully the seam movement will bring you into the game. So for me, it's not variety or quality, it's just adjusting to the conditions that have been the problem. Okay, the last question. This is from Aditi. Weird shout, but do India drop ready to bring in Rana for a better bowling attack? Absolutely not. You go in with 3 quicks, maybe bring in Washi for Rohit Sharma, and then you've got Washi, Jadeja and Reddy to really control that middle order with the bat, but also give you 3 extra bowling options and to take the pressure off the 3 quicks. But I would not go into this test match with 4 frontline quicks because your top order hasn't performed well as well. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli as well as Gill are slightly out of touch. So there's not really that confidence that you have in the top order to be able to go in with 4 frontline quicks as well. You need that batting depth. A good question, mate. Now, have a Merry Christmas, guys. Get your comments downstairs. Hope you enjoyed the vlog.